All right. Hello, everyone, and welcome. Today is August 12th, 2021, and this is the 154th Scientific Governance and Risk Meeting. My name is Peyton. I'm Pros 11 on the forums and just about anywhere Maker. I'm one of the two governance facilitators here for MakerDAO and have the pleasure of hosting this meeting today. I'm joined by a bunch of awesome people interested in Maker and the goings on here. So we use these meetings as a way to update the community on what's going on, as well as discuss any issues or questions of risk and things we should be aware about as a community. And yeah, just a great way to get engaged. So if you're watching this back on YouTube, these are every Thursday at 1700 UTC. And if you need help getting admitted, we just have you visited our governance and risk chat for the official Maker Rocket chat. I feel like that's most of the housekeeping matters out of the way. We do encourage questions and like I said, engagement from everybody. So if one of the speakers says something you're interested about or would like further information, feel free to either drop it in the chat or come on the mic when the time presents itself. We try to be pretty open on calling for questions, but yeah, if you're worried about the timing, feel free to use the chat and we're happy to ask it for you. Yeah, all right, pretty sure that's all the housekeeping matters. So typically start off these meetings with an update on the governance going on. So right now I'll start with the polls. There are still 3 polls running, none ended this week. Yes, that is accurate, I hope. Having a temporary moment of panic, so I'm going to double check that. Anyway, I'll talk about the exec in the meantime. So we do have one executive ongoing, and yes, excellent. I am correct on the polls. Sorry for that momentary brain panic. But there is one executive ongoing that does 3 different things. I guess it is a rates change, distribution of our August core unit budgets, and some housekeeping matters. Last check, we were just short of 15,000 MKR in support. So if you haven't taken a look at that, please do so and consider voting. Yeah, now back to the previously scheduled poll announcement. Confirmed, no polls into this week. There are, however, 3 ongoing ones. First one ends Monday, and that is the green light poll for 120 dB as a real world assets type facility. So you got 3 more days to kind of signal to the community if we should be putting in our time to onboard that as a collateral. And there are 3 ongoing ratification polls. Those will be ending on the 23rd of August here. I won't steal our MIP editor's thunder as he'll be going over the vote tallies and whatnot later on in the call, but another thing to take a look at if you are a voter. All right, now that I've struggled through that, I'm going to pass it over to our other governance facilitator for an update on what our core unit, the GovAlpha core unit, who handles governance, has been up to this week. Long, please take it away from me.
Hello, thank you, Ben. Yeah, so my name is Long for Wisdom and the other governance facilitator. Yeah, so as usual, I'll kind of just run over the highlights that we have this week. And if anybody wants to see every little thing, they can look at this forum post. So things worth mentioning, we had our 3rd Meet Your Delegate call 2 days ago, last Wednesday. The recording is up on YouTube. Yeah, and for the time being, we've run out of prospective recognized delegates. So we have 6. Obviously, if anyone else comes forward and kind of professes desire to do that, we will set them up more calls. But yeah, for the time being, yeah, no more Meet Your Delegate calls. Yeah, so going forwards, the kind of next steps are for us to sort out the participation and communication tracking, metric tracking for recognized delegates. Pretty sure we're set with that. We just need, like next Monday, we'll do the first round and make sure everything works. Yeah, and sort of we're going to continue to push for integrations of the delegate contracts with custody providers. So some of our larger MKR holders can delegate securely, I should say. Another thing to note from GoAlpha is our next budget proposal is now up on the forum. It covers 6 months from, which is Q4 2021, Q1 2022. In general, we're going to try and move towards longer budgets as we get a better idea of how much the CU costs to run, right? And figure out like what our goals are. So I think we're hoping for the next one to maybe be 12 months, but this one is for 6 months. So yeah, generally goal is to get to the point where governance only needs to deal with it once a year. Another point worth noting. So as some of you may or may not know, we've been working on doing documentation for governance. The plan is to kind of launch that documentation under a Git book called the Maker Operational Manual. Kind of got left by the wayside a little bit because it was never sort of the highest priority. Cool thing to report is that Gala is now helping us kind of organize and manage that project a little bit more actively, and we've like already seen some progress, which is great. So yeah, looking forward to getting that actually launched at last and getting it moving all of our sort of critical documentation there. And then yeah, the last thing to mention is that Pablo is now a full MIP editor. I don't know if we mentioned, maybe did we mention that before? I'm not sure. But yeah, congratulations to Pablo. And yeah, we'll be doing the update again later in this call. All right, I think that covers our highlights for the week. Anyone have any questions for me before Peyton? All right, back to you, Peyton.
All right, easy enough. Wonderful, appreciate that update. This week, continue to try a few new things. So I'm going to pass it over to Artem for the forum at a glance, and I believe he has some slides to show us.
Hey everyone, this time I actually have connection. Okay. On my screen. All right, can everyone see? Awesome.
Looks good.
All right, so I'm going to start off with the announcements for the forum at a glance for the week of August 6th to 12th. And I want to start off by saying that the risk team and the real world finance team were on fire with their posts and publications this week. It was crazy. So we're going to start off with the real world finance core unit team's posts and announcements for the July financial report has been submitted by A's, showing that it's been another challenging month due to a month-over-month decrease in demand and lending and income. However, on a year-over-year basis, all key metrics have improved significantly. I have a cat here. Next up, we have Sebastian, who published the Real World Assets Report for July, which contains just one pool, being New Silver so far. Then we have Money Supply from the Risk Core Unit team, published simulations on gas and vault cost from a user perspective, discussing gas, various parameters and platforms that can help determine which vault sizes are favorable for MakerDAO. We have Rema from the Risk Core Unit team, who published an analysis on identifying market activity of vault users. And this analysis is based on a snapshot taken on August 3rd that represents majority of issued DAI from non-stable coin vaults in the PSM. The analysis focuses on DAI rate arbitrage in popular DeFi lending markets. Whoops. Then we have Mariano, who mentions that Mazzari published report on the MakerDAO valuation. That report leverages charts provided by the real world finance core unit to cover both MKR and DAI traction, tokenomics, valuation risk. They also cover recent protocol upgrades as well as the MakerDAO roadmap and its competition. We have Money Supply, who published the risk evaluation for GUNI DAI USDC. GUNI DAI USDC is a fungible strategy token that represents deposits into Uniswap v3 because LP shares are non-fungible NFTs and they don't reinvest free earnings. Primos published an analysis on whether we should lower liquidation ratios for maker vaults in order to boost DAI supply and gain attractiveness for maker vaults. The risk team used their maker collateral risk model to quantify this analysis. We have one collateral onboarding application and 2 RFCs, which will probably be detailed a little bit more in the MIPs, but James submitted a collateral onboarding application for RAI, which is a non-pegged ETH-backed stable asset built by Reflexer. And Philip submits RFC proposal for the Docs core unit, and Lewis submits RFC proposal for the StarkNet Engineering core unit. Now on to active discussions, which has also been pretty heavy this week. Monet Supply details difficulties maintaining vault types that have low usage and proposes a roadmap discussing to offboard such assets that lack a realistic prospect of becoming profitable in the future. Vamsi from Deco Protocol proposes a new product to bring new revenue generating and user retention feature to MakerDAO through fixed rate vaults with the integration of Deco Protocol. Then we have Ace from Real World Finance again. He's now a full-time with Real World Finance core unit team, and he's beginning September with full-time. So he's reaching out to the community for feedback, discussing certain priorities and short-term roadmaps for the Real World Finance. He wants a little bit of feedback on that. This one's pretty interesting. Just recently, Adam from Maker Labs shared their recent web app, which is a single-page proof of concept application, and it increases transparency around Maker delegates. It offers, so far, it offers 2 main views: an overall view of delegates and a detailed view of corresponding polls and executives. We have 2 informal polls. Keep pressing the button. We have 2 informal polls. One by Tim, now that the MakerDAO expenses are at 32 million and it's not filled a surplus buffer anytime soon. So Tim is asking the community to discuss the idea of increasing the surplus buffer again to promote that accrued income will go into the buffer instead of having MKR burned. Sebastian asked the community whether we should prioritize investments in safe securities through the Cayman Foundation as a way to reduce USDC exposure in the medium term. And something that's still active and ongoing from last week is Carl from Paxos posting to create a Pax PSM to extend Pax as a way to diversify that collateral, stemming from the community concern around growth of DAI USDC being backed. This week, there are currently no active signal requests, and there's more information on the post itself, the forum at a glance, which includes the 3-point summary, and that's subject to change because we might be changing that. It also includes ongoing initiatives and help wanted. And that's it on my end.
Awesome.
Let me just, okay.
Yeah, full screen llamas, that's what we need. Or the alpacas.
Yeah, they're alpacas.
Yeah, -1, that's okay. Anyway, thanks for the update there. That was awesome.
Thank
wonderful.
you. Do you have admin rights? Good.
Do I have admin? Yeah, I'm good to go.
Okay, cool.
Excellent.
Thank you, everyone.
Yeah, appreciate putting together the slides and yeah, making it a little easier to follow along with all the posts we're mentioning. All right, so turning to the agenda here, now we'll get back into more core unit updates. First up is going to be protocol engineering. That be Chris again, I assume?
Yeah, I'm just realizing that my joke from last week is still up as my background in Zoom. So here you guys go. Sorry, I don't know how that joke landed. I just exited the meeting, so hopefully you guys enjoyed that. Yeah. Anyway, so I'm Chris from the protocol engineering team. I'm one of the shadowy super brokers on that team, and we've got a couple updates this week. So for next week's spell, we've got a bunch of stuff that's ready. I'm not necessarily saying that it's going to be in that spell, but we've got Matic which now has the sort of OSM and medianizers from the Oracle's team. So I think Matic is ready for onboarding. We've got DSS Best, at least the first version, which is the sort of like sucking die version that helps pay teams that we think is ready. And we're hopefully going to get that out before we have to do the next round of like core unit payments so that we can just establish the sort of vesting next time around. Again, that's for payments to teams, not NKR vesting. And then we are considering a PAX PSM right now. This has a couple interesting attributes to it, but I'll let Growth talk about that. So we're looking at creating a PSM for PAX. And also there's an additional, there's a post in the forums that I'll go to and let everyone know that I validated, but maybe we can get other people to validate it as well. But for the success real world asset, there's a broker dealer address that that the output conduit will end up sending DAI funds to, and that address is with Gemini. And I've gone and independently validated that that address is indeed a Gemini controlled address. So so others may want to do that as well, but that change will also go in there. Now that's not an increase in the debt ceiling yet. It's just we'll put that in and then we'll yank. We had one of our deployer addresses to test that facility, and we'll yank our deployer address from there. So then just other priorities on our plate. We've got GUnit, which is still in ongoing team reviews and audits. I think we just found something in the Oracle for that recently, so we're still iterating on that. The D3M module is basically getting a review from the Aave team, and we have some ongoing discussions to determine like debt ceilings and whatnot with the stake theft group. So there's I think maybe a group of, or we're also going to try and put together a list of milestones that we want staked ETH to hit, maybe just maker milestones, both between risk and protocol engineering, in order to sort of like set these like hard limits on where we think the debt ceiling should be, and also maybe like add a little pressure for them to like move their roadmap to a more decentralized and safe place. So for ongoing maintenance work, we had the changelog updates since that went in for the RWA spell. I'm sorry, for RWAs in the most recent executive. So please vote on that for the housekeeping stuff. We added a calc factory to improve the collateral onboarding process, and we've got some formal verification proofs and rules for the crop join adapter coming. And also we're going to make some changes to enhance the like RWA handling of like debt ceiling increases and whatnot in our spells, because that was something that came out of a postmortem we had a little while back. And I'll just mention really quick that the flip to EIP 1559 is sort of messed up the tooling in the space a little bit. So so a lot of us sort of spun our wheels on tooling over the last like week or so. At least I spun my wheels on tooling. So, but it looks like DAppTools is totally up to date, which is one of our big pieces of tooling, and also finally got their like fork simulations working again. So so we're doing really well. And yeah, so then for L2 updates, there's a end-to-end test that happened in Arbitrum. So this is the other Chris on our team, Chris with a K. I'm gonna say your last name and murder it. Catchor, Chris Catchor. So hopefully I got that right, Chris. He's doing the end-to-end test for Arbitrum, and also he refactored a bunch of the TypeScript helpers in Arbitrum for both the Arbitrum, like the die bridge for Arbitrum and the Optimism die bridge. So so that's it for protocol engineering. If anybody has anything on the protocol engineering team that I forgot they want to mention, or if anyone has any questions for us, please let me know. I'm gonna try and change my background while I do that.
Cool. Hey, this might be a question more for Derek. With regards to the StarkNet Engineering core unit, I was wondering if your team, protocol engineering has been thinking about how to incentivize folks to go over once it's up and running, right? Because if you look at DYDX, they've done it brilliantly, right? They released it via StarkX, the scalability engine. And of course, there's like some very nice incentives. So I was just wondering if your team had a chance to kind of like skill mill with Starkware with regards to how to incentivize folks to go over once it's up and running, 6 months from now or a year.
Yeah, that's a good question. We haven't specifically spoken about how folks would move over from our team to the StarkNet team or the evolution of the StarkNet team after it gets up and running. Their proposal is to initially focus on an initial sort of 6-month roadmap, have some key deliverables that get the solution out there and delivered, and then also explore how it impacts liquidations or how other modules can move over into the ZK rollup space. So we haven't specifically focused on that or even really discussed it terribly much. It's really just trying to see how this space is going to evolve, because I think like one of the comments I had to Planet X earlier this week was in that, we're not picking a winner. We don't know where the liquidity is going to go for DAI, whether it's Optimism, Arbitrum, or the ZK Sync or StarkNet Cairo space. So really just making sure we have all our bases covered and making sure we have these opportunities here. How that's going to evolve over time, I'm not too sure yet, but I think, that'll be something we'll have to discuss as these solutions become a bit more solidified in terms of both the opportunity they present to the existing protocol and where we see liquidity and DAI moving in these spaces.
Yeah, for sure. Is there a metric that we're keeping as far as if Optimism has been having success? I think there was one and I can't seem to find it. I've heard rumors that they're having a hard time getting some TVL, right? So I just wondering if you had any ideas. How do you keep up with how much money is moving over there to these L2s?
Yeah, I don't have a specific metric yet. I mean, we reference Chris with K on our team has built L2 beats as a way to view where we're seeing total value of assets locked, and I think it's just something we need to sort of keep an open mind with to see where liquidity is flowing to. And I think maybe that's something that we should start to incorporate in our risk framework, because it's not just about risk, it's also about the reward and revenue that these different opportunities present. And then at some point, we are probably going to have an evolution where we need to consider offboarding certain protocols if they're not performing or are not delivering value. So I don't think we're there yet, certainly, but in due course, there's definitely going to have to be something we take into consideration, just like we've done with other collateral types.
Okay, cool, man. Thanks. And I got the L2beat.com. Pretty awesome. Thank you, Kurt.
Yeah.
Any other questions for protocol engineering or other things to cover, perhaps? I feel like that was a decent beat. All right. Thanks for the update. And guess I'm going to take a chance to do a little plug. Frank asking some of the questions there is one of our recognized delegates. So if you head over to the voter portal, you can see who all those recognized delegates are. If you're not able or willing to keep up with the day-to-day or week-to-week operations at Maker, you can consider delegating your AR, which is awesome. That fun plug out of the way, I think we'll go back to our regular scheduled programming. Next up looks to be risk core unit. Pramosh, are you on to give an update?
Yep. So last week was very productive on our side. We published quite a few interesting posts. Today I published proposed liquidation ratio changes that are in line with our risk evaluation from last week. Please have a look at proposed changes because we plan to include them into an on-chain poll already next week. So this decision was made after we didn't see any objections to our proposal last week. But if there are some, please comment in the thread I published today so that we can evaluate whether we missed anything. Mark also posted analysis yesterday that shows how MakerVault users are utilizing their DAI. We were able to identify about 30% of ETH vaults with various farming activities. I suggest you read this post, but the main takeaway is that about 500 million of ETH depth exposure is currently mostly farmed on Aave and Compound, and this is done by using recursive stablecoin leverage. And it's also interesting to know that recalculated net yield, from paying stability fee at Maker and opportunity costs on ETH deposits. So the recalculated yield is around 9%. And the plan now is to connect MakerVaults with other farming activities and track this in real time. And this actually helps us on our side because we can identify whether these users are net long or short DAI. And this gives us a better picture how they're able to react when it comes to liquidations. And the other analysis that is currently in progress is also to identify how these users are protecting their vaults, if they use some kind of automated strategies. And to keep it short, the end goal of what we are currently doing is to know vault user behavior practices, but also track their on-chain balances. And this actually gives us complete understanding of how risky every exposure is at Maker. And by knowing this, we can offer better conditions, which means even lower liquidation ratios, higher debt ceilings, lower rates, and so on. Monet Supply also made 2 posts this week. One was related to dust levels. We know dust levels are quite high at Maker, and how we usually evaluated appropriate dust levels was in regards to liquidations. We basically looked the minimum debt amount or debt size where liquidation is still profitable and doesn't lead to losses. This time, Monet Supply chose different approach. So he basically compared gas costs of managing a vault for different debt sizes, basically estimating gas costs from user perspective. And the result was that 5,000 to 10,000 debt size is actually pretty reasonable dust level because if you use certain stressed scenarios, gas costs can already attribute to more than 5% on yearly cost levels, and this is 2 times as much as ETA rate currently. Then the other post by Monet Supply was in regards to collateral offboarding framework. This plan or framework is still in discussion. I suggest the community to become involved here. The steps of parameter changes that need to be applied to offboard these collaterals are pretty much in line with what we discussed with other facilitators. The only potential unknown criteria is the time frame. So whether we should be more aggressive with some collaterals, such as, for instance, KNC, where there's no real economic benefit of having this collateral live or having oracles enabled. So we need to determine how aggressive do we want to be with these parameter changes that follow if we want to offboard something in 3, 6, 9 months and so on. And then, other than that, only a few shorter updates. There's still ongoing work on institutional vaults. We are proceeding with evaluating Nexus current exposure and their historical track record at protecting their vault. With protocol engineering team, we're still discussing appropriate DevCon spells. These are a bit outdated. We also started evaluating B protocol proposer for onboarding new collateral type. There was an interesting discussion held yesterday on Know Your MIP session. Suggest you check this in the recordings. We're also looking into fixed rate vaults proposal by Deco protocol. This might be interesting alternative to the recently proposed long-term vaults product. And then finally, we also submitted a proposal this week for maker compensation for the team. And I think that's most of it for the week. Hope I wasn't too long. If there are any questions, let me know.
Thanks for posting that. Recording JR is going to do it. Started fumbling the links. Not seeing any questions for Rick, so tempted to move on, but now's your chance to cut me off if something did come to mind. Awesome. So next up on our agenda is going to be the Oracle's core unit. I believe Nick is out for a couple more days, so got Marc-Andre here to give the update.
Yeah, thank you, Peter. So this week, not many updates. Biggest one is the Matic new Oracle that is now ready to go. We need to coordinate on a few things regarding the makeup occur to update the OSM, and as well as cleaning up some permissions once we confirm that everything is all right. But the feeds and the relayers are updated and pushing prices. On the development side, we began the work for EIP 1559 for relayers, both on the new code base as well as on the current Omnia software that we have in production. As I believe Chris mentioned, DevTools is catching up with London and EIP 1559, so that allows us to start working, doing the actual work on our end. And both are progressing, so that's progressing relatively well. We also merged some code that will give us some additional flexibility on gas price strategies for relayers. Again, regarding EIP 1559, we're still trying to assess what should be a good pricing strategy for transactions. It's unclear at this point if we'll be able to come up with something that will result in gas savings and ultimately save costs for MakerDAO. But that still remains an objective, and we'll start doing some simulation calculations in this regard pretty soon. Also, still on the software development team side, now that we finished the development and the deployment of both major pieces of software in Gopher and Spire, we started doing some much needed refactoring work, things that we've been pushing back for a long time. It's mostly on the infra and package management. And the goal here is to eventually give additional deployment and configuration options to feeds and relayers. Yeah, so Nick will be back next week. So we'll be back to the regular update format starting next week.
Well, thanks for that update. We appreciate you keeping the community informed here, and I'm sure we'll find ways to get you back on the call for some more video updates. So any questions for the Oracle's team? Going once, going twice. All right, appreciate the update there. I believe next up is going to be real world finance. Seb, if you've got an update for us, feel free to take it away.
Yeah, sure, thanks. So I have a few updates. First, on the Kingdom Foundation, we are setting up. We have now shared the memo of association and articles of association, so you can read them and comment them. There is a lot of topics that the community can discuss. You can discuss how much control you want to give to some authorized signers, to some committees, maybe the name will change. Basically, how much control do you want MakerDAO to keep, how much control it want to give to third parties. We are, although currently looking for services to are the operators of the Cayman Foundations. So we have a few names that we will meet next week. And we are still pursuing the SolarX transaction with a timeline that's hopefully in September, which seems a bit fast, but we will see what can be done here. And I've shared an informal pool on, so a lot of people are saying, and I discussed with some people, and the sentiment is that, well, the real world asset is good, but it's super small and it's not moving the needle, and it's not helping a lot with the USDC issue. We having too much USDC in the PSM. So I thought that maybe we can use a Cayman Foundation to invest in some safe assets, not ultra safe, but still safe, so we can get at least a bit of yield. And so I shared this in a forum poll, and please comment on it and vote, and so we can see what is the wish of the community. We will have some discussion with some MKR token holders and we'll have some delegates and so on. So this is for the Cayman Foundation / SolarX front. On the data front, we have decided to pause a little bit to work on the data infrastructure because it's a lot of work. There was some complications, and we are focusing more currently on continue to use Dune Analytics. So one nice thing with Dune Analytics, so it's not perfect for some stuff. Some deep analyses are quite complex to do and almost impossible to do, sadly, because it's not designed for that. But the cool thing is that you have a PR with that. And if you see the dashboard I've made, you can share the link, is used in a lot of articles around the web. And in the last seed round from Dune Analytics, or it was a series, I don't remember, the MakerDAO dashboard was used as the example to display what Dune Analytics is capable of. So it's pushed MakerDAO in front of the DeFi community as a whole. And so I think it's nice to have a feature for Dune Analytics. And I expect with this funding, it was 6 or 8 million, the tool will get better and better. So I think it's worthwhile to continue to use it and not invest too much elsewhere. On the finance front, AES is working on an institutional vault economic analysis, and he will publish it soon, maybe next week. And he also made a post to ask the community what is important for the community regarding the financial reportings. So please answer to him and provide feedbacks. It will be welcome. And on the last front, on our side, we are working on the securitization roadmap. So basically working with the law firm on the new silver investment. We have now quite a perspective of what should be done to achieve the end goal of bringing all the securitization of traditional finance on chain. There are some things that need to be fixed, some things that need to be developed. I will probably share the document next week. And to help us moving forward, we opened a new job position on the real world finance team, and we are looking for an expert in securitization to help us, well, just do better. And that's about it on my side, and I leave the floor now to Matthew so he can update us a little bit on success.
Hello, everyone. As you may have seen on Twitter, Success Capital has helped close the first institutional Delaware statutory trust structure with a world-class trustee a couple weeks ago. This deal has been in the works right now for just about a calendar year. Just a quick shout out to say thank you to the community for your support publicly and privately. It's been a hell of a challenge, and your support really has made just all the difference. And kind of a joke, but like if you've seen like the most recent like one of these Netflix series, right? Ted Lasso taking on a new challenge is a lot like riding a horse. If you're comfortable doing it, well, you're probably doing it wrong. So once we have a world-class trustee on board, the DAO can also bring on a whole suite of new trusts, not only for Success, but for any party that wants to step forward to deploy capital safely and to do so at ultra scale. The next steps really now are to work with the community and get ready for an executive. We're almost ready to request it, but not yet, almost. But thank you. And forgive me, guys, I have to step away on something urgently. Thank you.
And if you have some questions on the Huron Finance or on the Matthew Fund, please, now is the time to ask.
Awesome.
Yeah, he said, sorry, Pete, with the new silver, can you give us more color? What the law firm is doing? Are they going to kind of verify the documentation, the security agreement or credit agreement with New Silver?
Yeah, they are looking at almost everything. So currently they just write a long document with a lot of stuff, some that are very minor, some that are more important. There is no big issue, I would say. But yeah, so there are some stuff to address, but nothing is too bad. I mean, obviously we would have act more quickly if there was.
Okay,
and some stuff are for the long term. I mean, in my view, we try to bring credit rating agencies to the mix. So bringing those guys will not be so easy.
Okay, and we'll look forward to your write-up. Thanks.
Sure.
Awesome. Happy to see so much stuff going on there. Just send out a link to your retweet there, the Dune Analytics. That was pretty exciting to see your dashboard used as their example of what Dune can be used for. Yeah, great to see Maker in the news there. All right, continuing on, I believe we have growth next. Nadia, are you giving the update today?
Yes. Hello, everyone. This is the link for the weekly updates. So lately we have been working a lot with different entities that want to help us creating a solution for the institutional vaults, because we know it's something that will be a good solution to generate more DAI supply, but not all companies or entities that could be interested on using that service are like Nexo. Like Nexo, I think Nexo is an exception that is willing to use MakerDAO without doing a KYC of an entity that represents MakerDAO. So the implementation of the institutional vaults and the long-term vaults proposal, that will be the first step towards having a solution for these institutions. But then we should start looking for alternatives for all these other institutions that want to have access to a DAI loan, but they also need to KYC an entity. So that's why we are starting conversations with different companies, like the very big and well-recognized companies that manage huge crypto funds. We are talking about billions on crypto, and they do the custody and they also manage loans. And the idea is that they could use Maker, the protocol, to offer loans to these other institutions. So use them as like the middleman between Maker and the institutions. Right now we are talking with 2 of these companies, but we think that will take time, because we don't want to propose just one template and force them to go into that framework. We want them to create the right solution for them. So for example, we want to do something similar as we did with Nexo. In the case of Nexo, it was simpler because they don't need to KYC Maker, but we know these other entities will need probably to KYC MakerDAO in some way. So we are working with them so they can help us to discover what could work for them and go in that direction with each of them. Again, we think part of the spirit of decentralization is to start creating different frameworks and have different options for all these institutions that could come in the future to open vaults. Also regarding, the PSM, you'll see Paxos that posted their proposal to include PAX in the PSM, and we, as the growth core unit, we want to put that for the weekly poll on next Monday. And in, well, the start of the week, during this week or maybe next, BitBNS, one of the biggest exchanges in India, will include the DAI Indian rupee pair in their markets, and they will be helping us to create different programs to increase DAI awareness in the Indian market. Also in Latin America, Skilo app, it's a wallet, a peer-to-peer wallet of DAI that works on Binance Smart Chain. And they are also like creating different campaigns in Argentina and Venezuela to increase DAI usage on those countries. I also posted the tweet of the week that talks about Mika Johnson, the artist that is receiving DAI donations to support 2 kids. I talked about this on the last governance call. If you want to know more about it, go and check our Twitter account and read about this artist. This was thanks, like the BitBNS, it was thanks to Jocelyn, who is like doing an awesome job in all the Asian market. The Skilo app was a great job that Luis is doing in Venezuela, and the tweet that you will read in our Twitter handle about Mika Johnson and the DAI donation was thanks to Jen, that I don't know if you know, but if you want to know about NFTs, that's your girl. So that's the updates for this week. Any questions? Okay.
Awesome. A lot of stuff is always from growth. A lot of big deals coming down the pipelines. Thanks for updating us, and happy to hear about all the progress.
Great.
All right. Up next, we have the Sustainable Ecosystem Scaling Core Unit, working at being able to say that together all at once, maybe even faster. Juan, I believe you're hosting. Yeah, take it away.
Thanks. Yeah, it's even hard for me, so I don't blame you. I was wondering if after all these groups presenting, people still have the energy to listen. I'll make it quick. Yeah, so the picture on the top right is from a couple hours ago. That's Rune, Søren, and Nikolai from SES enjoying a beer in some rooftop in Copenhagen. But yeah, going back to the things that we've done, I've said it last week, but just again, for dog food and helping other core units to set up everything, we have created this forecast and reporting template that we've been sharing. We got a lot of good feedback, but if anyone wants to use it or learn how to use it, or they have questions and they would like to apply a more a more controlled approach to the finances of their core units, let me know and I'll be happy to set you up. Same thing for the MKR compensation templates. So it's I think it's called Cookie Cutter or something, and there's a presentation that we've done last week. It's in our public folder, so if any core unit wants to explore it or see how it works, it's there in the public folder. Tomorrow we'll have Jordan and Lenka doing the first a presentation on the first findings for Project X-Ray, which is how to retain talent and capture talent in a DAO. So quite interesting. I'm looking forward to seeing that. So tomorrow at 2:30 UTC, join us in the SES update. And then just a shout out that we are looking for talent. So if you know of someone that might be a good fit, send them my way, please. Regarding the community, we had yesterday Nebula for real world assets. Really interesting, really well presented talk. The presentation was really good. I think it's already on YouTube. Okay, it is great. And we also had the B protocol declaration of intent. It's already up. So if you want to check it out, go ahead. Next week, we will have Capital Now Cannabis for real world assets in the collateral onboarding. So come join us. And we will have Seb Ventures explaining the MIP 58 Real World Assets Foundations. So that's next week. I'm also trying to convince Bourbon to do a COPS or a lunch pod session on the strategic happiness core unit that's coming soon. So that's to be defined very, very soon. And oh yeah, the thing that I was forgetting, this ListCon, that's I think it's October 20th and 21st. So we are most likely going to be doing something. It's not still clear what, but we will be there. So if anyone wants to visit Portugal at the end of October, it will be great to meet. So yeah.
Oh, what event is this like a MakerCon type thing, or is this like a ETH ecosystem event type thing?
So we're speaking with Nadia to see if Maker is doing something as good as Paris. Maybe we can go and do something bigger even. But right now there's ListCon, which is a conference, and they're expecting around 800 people, the 20th and 21st of October, if my memory is not failing. Then there will be a hackathon. So it's ETH Lisbon, I feel. Maybe Juliana can help me, but my memory is not serving me well today. And that's going to be during the, ethlisbon.org. That's going to be during the weekend, and it's only for 150 people, which means that there are 650 people interested in ETH that would love to see workshops and side events. So that's a good opportunity to fill right there. And after that, if anyone's thinking of coming from long distance, there's the Solana conference, I think beginning of November. I think it's solana.com/Lisbon. So yeah, we're still not sure what we'll be doing, but we will be doing something and collaborating with the great teams that are on the ground. So
we would, Centrifuge would definitely be happy to do something with you guys, and we'll be there as well.
Nice.
These events are pretty awesome. It's like similar to ETH Berlin and Paris, like multi-centra and a hackathon. So yeah, can highly recommend it.
Yeah, totally. So we still don't know what we're doing. We know that we have a lot of material to present. People are, or how to form a DAO is gaining a lot of traction out there. So we will be doing something for sure. More news coming soon, I guess. And that's it for us. As always, is how to find us, our office hours, emails, Discord handles, and Telegram and whatnot, Rocket chats. Thank you.
Awesome. Thanks, Juan. David, you got a question there?
Yeah, I do have like a general question. So actually it's related a little bit to my thinking about this ETH Lisbon event. So in general, like I think it's really, really great for teams at MakerDAO to go to offsites and meet people in person and stuff. And so like when I look at an event like ETH Lisbon, speaking as the facilitator of the GovComms core unit, in my mind, I'm like, okay, like what's the value for me and maybe a member of my team or just me to go to this conference? Is it, am I going to be able to gain anything from it? Is gaining from it really what I should be thinking about, or should I also be thinking about more the network effect of going to these events? Like, I'm just trying to understand how to make that choice as a facilitator on whether we should go or not. Or I should go or not.
It depends a lot of, and I agree. It really depends a lot on the, so there are a lot of things that you can be doing during these things. One of like the most basic one is meeting a lot of people. So my main reason to go to Paris was actually meeting the people that I've been like contributing with for over a year and I've never worked with. So that was my main motivation. But then, for example, if you're invited to speak in different panels or talks or give presentations and share your knowledge, that's already giving Maker a lot of exposure. So that's good for marketing and for traction and I don't know, for SES it was really, really helpful to be in Paris, even if we didn't plan something like spectacularly big. So for us it was quite valuable to be there. We got a lot of contacts in terms of expanding and yeah, for the legal part as well. So Layer 0 was there. He did really well on that aspect as well. So all in all, I think it was positive. For us, it wasn't very expensive because we were based here. So it really depends. I think it's at the end of the day, you might have some budget that you want to use, and then you need to pick your wars.
Yeah, cool. Yeah, and for context, like our budget passed with I think 10K a year for travel, and in my mind, I just want to prioritize the right events because I don't want to, go to an event that, I could just not go to, and then a month later, like something that's way more worth our time happens. So yeah, I'm just trying to think a little bit more strategically about it. But thank you. That makes a ton of sense. And yeah, like the value is super obvious in a lot of ways. Yeah, cool. Thanks for the answer.
I definitely sympathize with the budget stressing there, David. Always tough waiting. What's worth the money? But yeah, thanks for the update, Juan, and the slides to go with it. Always make it a little more fun. So had him on for the first time last week, but now with the official congratulations MIP editor out of the way, Limpa, you want to take away the stream for our regular MIPS update?
Yep, sure. Hello, everyone. I'm Pablo from the GovAlpha team, and I'm a MIP editor now. I'm going to be sharing my screen and doing the weekly MIPS update. Give me just one sec. Cool. So, hello everyone. Welcome to the MakerDAO's weekly MIPS update. We are currently on week 2 of the August governance cycle, and ratification polls went live on Monday the 9th. As you remember, we had 3 formal submissions for this governance cycle. These were the proposal set for the DAI Foundation core unit, the MKR incentive plan for the growth core unit, and the declaration of intent for the onboarding of a new collateral type backed by the protocol. These are now live and you can vote on them on the portal. And they are currently looking more or less like this. These numbers are updated, were updated like 2 hours ago or so. So as you can see, all of them have already reached and surpassed the minimum participation, positive participation threshold. And the reception has been overwhelmingly positive so far. Of course, there's still like more than 1 week to go, but things are looking very good for these proposals. Besides that, we have quite a number of proposals in RFC. Some of them have been submitted recently, like 1 or 2 days ago. Some of them have been updated likewise 1 or 2 days ago, and we have some that have been in RFC for a longer time. As for the newly submitted, those are the StarkNet Engineering coordinate proposal set, the one Frank and Chris talked about a bit earlier. The DAX coordinate proposal set, which has awesome designs. I really love the colors they use. And we have also 3 budget related proposals, one for the GovAlpha core unit for the 4th quarter, and one for the risk core unit. It's a maker compensation plan, which is doubly retroactive. That means it's not only retroactive to the creation of the core unit, but also to pre-core unit times. So there's a bit of discussion around that one. We also have the SES coordinate budget and the resubmission for the collateral services engineering core unit, which was rejected on a previous cycle. So Monkey Irish resubmitted a new revised version of it. As for the newly updated, those that were updated in the last few days, we have the strategic happiness core unit, about which the author, Bourbon, talked a bit at the beginning of this call. I was going to talk a bit more about this one, but there's been an update in the budget and it's looking pretty good after it's been further worked on by the SES core units. I know Juan has been helping there. Anyway, go check it out, please, if you haven't. And as for the rest, these are the ones that have been longer in the RFC period or have not been updated recently. we have the maker portfolio coordinates, MIP 56, MIP 57, MIP 58. All of this can in principle make it into the September governance cycle, except for the MIP 39C2. As I mentioned earlier, usually proposal set for the addition of core units are tripartite. They have 3 sub-proposals. In the case of this one, there's only one, and it won't be making it into the next governance cycle because the other 2 proposals, which must pass together, are not have not been submitted yet. I believe that's pretty much it. This is the first time I kind of go through all this process without anyone working alongside. David is the coordinates facilitator for the GovComms now, and Charles is busy doing other stuff. So it's been me, and it's been quite a bit of work. I'm surprised I had to spend so much time working on this. But yeah, that's it. I feel like there's still quite a lot of confusion regarding the timeline for the proposals, the RFC, the formal submission period, the frozen period, and all that. And I'm working on documentation that hopefully will make things easier. That documentation is still not ready for debut, but hopefully I will get it out sooner than later. And I think that's it from me. This is the funny image I was supposed to be showing last time. It's not all that funny, but it's finally showing. So that's it. That's all from me. Thank you.
Definitely adds to have that in there in the end. Yeah, a lot of MIP activity going on. I don't know if there are any questions. Definitely mentioned a few of the formal processes. So we'll go ahead and pause just to see if that sparked any questions for anyone.
So I have one quick question. So I know that you mentioned now you don't have anybody alongside you helping with the enormous workload. So my question is, are you looking for help? Are you calling out to the community for some help?
I will be looking for help once the role is more defined. We're going to have a call with Bayron and maybe Elon, I don't know, part of the GovAlpha team, to kind of refine what the MIP editor role is and what we want from it. Once we have that down, yes, I will probably be looking for help here. Yeah.
Right on. Cool. Thanks.
Welcome.
Awesome. One more moment here. Not seeing any other questions, so thanks, Pavel. That was great. A lot of MIPs to go through, as you mentioned, so appreciate you putting those all together for us. That does reach the end of our formal agenda here. There was one item I wanted to circle back on, which I'm pretty sure I didn't mention, which usually means I didn't, but I don't know. Sometimes you can space out while talking and hosting a meeting, but I wanted to let everyone know that we will be skipping the executive vote for this Friday. I'll be putting a post on that on the forums after this call. But again, kind of in line with what we've talked about previously in terms of not forcing a executive when we don't need one. This is another week where we didn't have much to add in. So we will just be putting that together for next week's and batching whatever comes about. Cool, wanted to make sure I added that in. Seeing as we are at the end of the formal agenda, this is typically the point in the meeting where we open it up to general discussion, be it questions about some of the stuff we've talked about or new items. I noticed earlier in the call, we did have a comment from Bourbon there about a variable rates vault. I know there's some discussion saying that right now it would not be technically possible. However, I do think that's an interesting discussion to have. So I don't know if you want to take it away, Bourbon, let the people know what you were thinking.
Yeah, so I think I'm one of the only people using ETH-B as aggressively as possible, though I pulled it back a little bit. But yeah, so if you're sitting under 150%, Sure, 6% is actually 6% doesn't matter to me at all, regardless, because I'm using it for leverage. But you know, let's say I want to de-risk, feel like the top is in or whatever, I get cold feet, and I move up to 200, 300%. Well, I might not mind paying the 6%. I could migrate to ETH-B or ETH-C through some recipe, but that's a lot of, you know, gas and all that sort of stuff, a lot of fees. And then once I want to crank it up again, I would, you know, have to make that shift back, and it's not clear if that'll be worth it to me or not. But while I'm a risky borrower, fine, charge me a whole bunch. But as soon as I de-risk, like, do I really have to be paying 6%? And Sam was saying it might not be, you know, technically like that easy to implement right now. But I think it could be a good idea down the line if it's, you know, if it's possible to do, because, you know, one of the reasons we charge more for ETH-B is because it's people using it are riskier. But if their vaults are sitting at, you know, a regular ratio, then why should they be paying the 6%? They'd be paying a lower percent. I don't know if you run 3 different oracles for this. ETH-AB for more leverage. Yeah, 125 would be great also. But yeah, so this, you know, if there's 3 separate oracles for this or something, maybe this would reduce some kind of overhead.
Wouldn't it just be like a sliding scale thing? I don't think you'd need oracles.
Yeah. Well, yeah, I don't know exactly how it would technically work, but you know, it could be easier to maintain one thing for us rather than 3 different vault types, and then just whitelist it for one customer. Yeah, so I think you guys get the idea there. I think it's probably not a priority, but maybe other users might see the same necessity for this, and maybe there is a lot of demand for something like this.
Yeah, the challenge is really around finding an efficient way to implement it. I mean, the sort of poor man's way to do it is like we have 3 ETH types already, and so you could build some automation that would move you between the 3 of them based on where you were keeping your collateralization ratio. The problem is that's probably not economical from like a gas perspective.
Yeah, that would be gas gas intensive, which I would come out of my vault. So yeah.
Now somebody could build like an aggregator kind of thing on top of Maker, where if people were all willing to say accept the same amount of exposure, you know, you could have multiple depositors putting into it, and then you could socialize the gas costs in some way by, you know, having some operator that, you know, does the rebalancing between different fee rate ETHs, and then like some, you know, there's some diversion of the profits made, you know, to that operator to compensate them for that. And so that would be like, you know, like urine or something, that would be like a urine style thing built on top of Maker.
Yeah, possibly. Imagine whoever's building it, that would just be like a lot to build regardless.
Yeah, I don't think you'd want to do it as like one person, but
yeah,
you know, if you can get a bunch of other people interested and show that there's demand, you know, the market might cough somebody up, and you know, Maker on, you know, like the DAO on its side could accommodate that by maybe adding, you know, maybe more fine-grained like levels of ETH collateral, so that there's a little bit more control over fee versus collateralization ratio.
Is it possible to do it within a vault type, but like obviously like a new vault type where it's just mapped, like that whole curve is just mapped?
Well, there are like efficiency problems of like, you know, how do you continuously update the stability fee? Like you probably need some sort of keeper for that, right? Like you could design a vault like this, but you know, basically you need something constantly poking and, you know, taking into account ETH prices and how much DAI people have drawn from their vaults. And you also need now like per vault storage, because different vaults will also will individually have different rates within that ilk, and that doesn't jive well with the way the contracts are structured and factored.
Yeah, cool. Yeah, that makes
It's
sense.
an interesting problem. I'm probably going to think about it now, but it's the short answer is that you can't do it easily within one ilk.
Yeah. doable, but not like that easy. I mean, see if there's appetite for it. I mean, for someone like me, like, I don't really care what I'm paying in the interest rate, but it'll be nice. But this could be something that makes things much more efficient. I do think that it could be just something down the road.
I mean, from a scalability perspective, the aggregator that switches between ETH ilks for a bunch of depositors all at once is, I sort of suspect that's probably the only model you could get to work on L1. Maybe on some of these L2s, if fees do prove out to be much, much lower, we could experiment with some of these less efficient but more customized things.
I can, I do obviously all my leveraging on I don't know if it's obvious, but I do everything on DeFi Saver. So they would probably be a good candidate to be that aggregator since they have a bunch of different vault types to begin with. That would probably be, I'll run the idea past them, see what they think is probably, they're already pretty swamped themselves. I don't know how badly they'll jump at this opportunity, but if anyone were to do it, it might be them or maybe InstaDev. But I don't have an open communication with InstaDev. Do the aggregator thing. Someone like me.
Kind of flex the Bourbon Rolodex there. I like it.
Yeah. If you'd like to. Yeah, then Sam was telling me that you guys could do 125%. Right? That would be pretty good. Well, you said it's technically possible, maybe. Theoretically, that's the maximum possible. But yeah, and also this is really just tangential. Was there a WBTC-B vault coming?
It's been floated before, but has not
Was
been.
there a signal request or a poll or something?
I think the risk evaluation was not favorable. So I think I don't know if permission is still here, but I think risk recommended we didn't go forward with it.
Was it?
Yeah, I think this was before liquidation 2.0, but then I was under the impression that this proposal by B protocol might go through, and they actually proposed lower liquidation ratio of Red Bitcoin Vault as some kind of pilot project or testing vault type. So I was under impression that if we support that one, we'd want to implement it in such manner.
I mean, maybe you can only you can implement it, but only allow users to use it that are using something like DeFi Saver, or if Oasis creates something that has liquidation protection built in, so it won't be an overload on our system, right? So yeah, so if liquidation is the risk, only allow it for users that employ a service that protects them from liquidation. I don't know if that's possible to whitelist like that, but just a thought.
So I have another topic that we might want to discuss is flash loans, because we deployed the module more than 1 month ago, and still no one did use it. So I wonder what we missed, because I think it's a great opportunity. I don't know if someone has some thought about it.
Yeah, I get the impression people are just not aware, or the amount of money is not significant enough to move people. I would think we would maybe get some more traction if we go to 0% fee, because DYDX is still the first option that people go to usually because it's free.
I think they are not aware, Sam. I think you're right, because we are in conversations with InstaDApp, and we mentioned the flash loans and they didn't know about that. So I think it's more that they don't know it exists.
Yeah,
Yeah,
we need
I talked to
marketing.
DeFi Saver, and DeFi Saver knew that it was coming, but they just didn't have the bandwidth to add it yet. So
Are you guys aware of the aggregators for flash loans? I know that there was one project, I don't remember the name now, but there are some aggregators, and maybe we need to poke these, maintainers of these aggregators to integrate. And also, I think like going back to 0% fee makes sense to incentivize these integrations.
I was saying it'd be kind of nice if we could have like 0% up to a certain amount, right? Because one of the cool things is that, like, for us, we can always guarantee that the flash loan will work, right? There'll always be at least, like, there will always be liquidity for DAI. So like, if we offer like free flash loans up to like 10 mil or something, then it means that there's an incentive for people to integrate because they know that will always work, whereas DYDX may not work because they might not have DAI liquidity. So that could be maybe cool. And then like keep the current version, which has like a non-zero fee, like on much larger amounts. I don't know. Like if we set it to 0 fee and like a high debt ceiling, like everyone will should always use ours if they want DAI because it will always return DAI when you call it, right?
Yeah, to be honest, I think we should just go to 0 fee. It doesn't provide that much revenue, even with the fee. And like, I don't know, it has utility with rearranging positions and stuff like that, leverage and whatnot.
Yeah, the benefit that we would get from being able to let others arbitrage out prices across markets would help our peg probably more than the fees that we got out of it anyways.
So if that's the case, do we maybe want to implement one where like the fee is fixed at 0% and governance can't change it? Because that gives like integrators a much stronger guarantee that it'll work, right? It'll always be.
Yeah, we could get rid of, there's gas optimizations that can be done by ripping out the debt ceiling and the fee and just hard coding it all.
You can also just revoke governance's permission over the existing one, although you don't get the gas optimizations in that case.
The gas stuff could be nice because it's like flash loans normally add like a non-zero amount, right?
Especially because we're kind of hamstrung because of the way the system is set up authorization-wise. We can't just like mint directly on the token. We have to, basically issue it from the VAT, and that adds a ton of gas overhead to ours, which could be why people don't use them as well. I don't have any data on that though.
That's a good point.
Is there any way we can like pre-mint a bunch to like a contract that just like, can we just like mint like 10 million DAI to a contract?
You could, at the risk of like screwing up a lot of dashboards and metrics.
Right, yeah.
Yeah, that DAI has to be accounted for somewhere. So like you could take it out of the surplus buffer, or create.
No, you wouldn't take it out of the surplus buffer. You
create a real world asset.
Dummy ilk, just like the optimized version of the PSM we talked about a long time ago. And like it can, if emergency shutdown happens, it can just, there's a mechanism where it all it's all fake DAI anyway, so it all just cancels out. But yeah, like you could do that. It just now like the various, all the DAI dashboards like DAI stats and stuff are going to be wrong until people update them.
Well, maybe we should take baby steps for now. Just reduce the fee down to 0.
Yeah, it all sounds great, but we just need to make sure we're good stewards of the entire ecosystem. I mean, anytime you start removing the ceilings off of this stuff, and Maker is the core of being able to create an infinite amount of DAI, I mean, there's a whole lot of damage that could be done to not only us, but to the rest of the entire ecosystem. And if we don't have a way to constrain it because we hard coded to remove it, that's a hell of a problem.
Yeah, no, Matt, I think he had suggested that we would just hard code a ceiling rather than take it away
have no
entirely.
ceiling. Yeah.
Yeah, but it would be a ridiculously large ceiling if we wanted to do that. I'm of the opinion like the debt ceiling is completely irrelevant for flash loans.
And I'm of the opinion that I want to see Sam's opinion totally wreck the entire ecosystem.
Yeah,
Yeah.
we don't know what we don't know. So
Out of curiosity, is there like an easy way to compare the gas usage for like our Flashloan implementation versus like DYDX's, or is it just so variable that there's no easy way to test that?
Yeah, you could test it.
Easy to measure.
But I mean, if you just go check transactions, they're usually kind of doing a whole bunch extra. So it's hard to just look at other stuff. You probably have to rig up a test yourself.
I mean, the cheap way to sort of estimate if you just want to like do it by looking at contracts is just like look at how many S-store operations there are, because those tend to dominate gas. And then beyond that, look at S loads too, which are like the second biggest contributions. And that can give you a pretty good rough idea then just based on the gas costs of those opcodes, what the difference is going to be. But it's also easy to just write a test for it. Like gas measurement is a standard dev thing to do.
Maybe one of you guys could figure out like how much more expensive ours is. Then we can figure out if we need to actually do any of the optimization stuff we talked about.
Yep, we can take a look at it.
Right on. Well, I know we are coming towards the end of our scheduled time here. Kind of a last call for if there's something you wanted to say or have discussed. Otherwise, we'll probably think about winding down. The community wants Bourbon to get back to his trading ways, so appreciate it.
I mean, if everyone wants to go check out my updated MIP, I love everyone's comments and stuff. Put a little work in. Juan, Nadia, Tom, and yeah, they all help me out. So, but you know, it's not like I know what I'm doing. So, yeah, comments would be really appreciated, and hopefully get this in next next cycle. Is the end of August? Beginning of September.
Awesome. Well, I appreciate everyone for coming out and engaging in the discussion here. That'll do it for this governance and risk meeting, and hope you have a great rest of your Thursday.